Alright, looks like I am live now. Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be doing another live stream going over the new dice that came out with this latest event. For those of you guys who have been looking at the dicers and been wondering whether or not any of them are worth it, my initial reaction is that this event is probably going to be one of those that you can probably skip entirely. I think this is the first time we've ever had a situation like this in Lord of Dice Global. Typically there would be something worth acquiring, whether it be a dicer or an avatar, but for this new update, doesn't appear that there's been any new avatars released for any of the masters. And as I go over the 4 new dicers released with this event, you'll soon find out that these dicers actually, with the exception of one, they're just not necessary. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So for the next 2 weeks beginning today, we have the Lars Cube event, and this is what the dicer looks like. In order to acquire him, you're going to need to trade these spell books for these Lars shard cubes. And as many of you guys know already, by logging into the game each day from 9 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. you can acquire free spell books and Lars cubes. I'm just going to gloss over that. Moving onwards to the more exciting stuff, we have a new dicer Rebirth, and unfortunately this dicer is going to be a lot worse than the one that we got last month, which was Mashu. Mashu was definitely hands down, or is definitely hands down, one of the top 5-star dicers released in Lord of Dice Global. I don't think anyone's going to question that. But I think it's kind of strange that following Mashu, they introduced one of the worst dicers in this game. I'll go over his abilities. It wasn't me who said he was bad. I thought that he was actually okay, but according to the Korean tier list, he is, I think, one of the 2 worst dicers, 5-star dicers in Lord of Dice. So Thanatos is going to be this dicer Rebirth. I suppose you can collect him for collection purposes, but you know, if you have a hard time farming for natural 5s, I wouldn't worry about it. I'll go over his abilities shortly. But in addition, we also have a new premium dicer, a Chunho, who I think might be one of the better dicers released in this event, although I think for her as well, she's okay. And then, yeah, once again, new Rebirth dicer, Thanatos, and new dicer skin. Now this really bothered me, this new dicer skin, for a number of reasons. We got a new dicer skin for Anna, who is currently unavailable. That is what just strikes me as extremely odd. Why would they introduce a new skin that, for a dicer that not only is no longer acquirable now, but the only way to acquire her was through a cube event? I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think more than 1% of the Lord of Dice community has her. And if we're trying to attract new players to the game, I just don't understand why you would introduce a skin for a dicer you can't even... I mean, that's going to confuse any newcomer who joins the game, right? They're going to be like, wait, how do you get Anna? And then people will tell them it's no longer acquirable. It just doesn't make sense to me. But hey Hellfire, thanks for joining. Alright, so let's move onwards. And you know, I personally have Anna. I did acquire her in the cube event, but I'm not even sure if I'm going to get the skin. I just don't use her often enough to justify it. Although for those of you people who do have Anna, for those of you who don't know already, the skin, it lowers the charge gauge, the maximum charge gauge by one dot. So let's say it took like, 7 turns to charge Anna. Now with the Anna skin, assuming you put the skin on the dicer, she's gonna only needs 6 dots to fully charge. I think with Mashu, for those of you guys who did get Mashu in the last event, I would highly recommend prioritizing getting her skin first, because for Mashu, she goes from 5 dots to fully charged gauge to 4 dots, and because of that, she fully charges so quick. It's great. But anyways, moving onwards, so here once again we have Lars, and behind him we have the new 4-star dicer Gatling. For those of you guys who missed Rock Crawler during a previous event, you can think of Gatling as pretty much a 4-star version of Rock Crawler. Still pretty good. I mean, pretty much the same abilities, maybe a little watered down, but the key, what makes him good, his full charge ability, is I would say it makes it worth it to get him. Alright, so let's get into the game now. As always, I will go over the abilities and the ranking for each one of these dicers here. Without further ado, let's go ahead and start with Lars. So he is going to be the dicer we can get from the cube event. Going over his abilities, actually let me do this, just for those of you guys who can't read what's on my PowerPoint here. Okay, let's check him out. So I think he's pretty cool, actually. I would say he still pales in comparison to Melite, but he is interesting, and I can totally see him fitting into some teams. So he is a D4 double dicer who's a piercer, can have from 2 to 6 moves. Protection adds 25% damage. I'm assuming it's applying to his damage. At full charge adds an additional 25% damage, applies a shield to you for 1 turn, and seals the move skill and attack of the enemy's best dicer until it is used. So this is pretty cool. This is kind of like a... I mean, obviously not as good as Melite, because Melite's ability applies shield for 2 turns, I think. I'm actually not so sure, because I don't have a limit broken Melite, but if I'm not mistaken, Melite applied a shield to not only you, but your entire team for, I think, at least 2 turns. Yeah, so... Oh, best dicer, oh, highest attack. Yeah, he does get, so I guess at full charge he gets a 50% boost in damage. So if we look at his, let me just pull up the full stats here. Oh, 3 turns? Well, yeah, like... I would say Melite's way better than Lars, so I wouldn't sweat about getting him, although it seems like Lars does hit pretty hard. Yeah, so his transcended attack is 2,500, but at full charge you're increasing it by 50%. Wait, where is he? Oh, there we go, yes. So Lars, he has 2,500 attack, 5,472 HP when transcended. So you multiply that by 1,000, or by 50%, and that comes out to, I can't do math right now. Let me see. So he hits that much, which is pretty good, I would say, for a piercer. I think the only other piercer aside from the primal dicers that can hit that hard would be Sonya, and that's when you're 50%. I think your HP is below 50%. Okay, so what else about him? Let's see. Okay, so Oath of Swords cancels all battle skills that control dice. Shield for 2 turns when you lose. So I would say Lars is okay. I would say that if you don't have melite, Lars is an okay alternative. But if you have melite, use melite, don't use Lars, because melite, she protects your entire team. And yes, Lars can deal extra damage, but I just feel like getting those shields to, take off. I don't know. I think he's pretty good, but pales in comparison with melite. All right, so there's your cube event summon right here. If you can't get him, I wouldn't sweat it. Alright, so let's move on to the Dicer Rebirth. So let's go out for a moment. Okay, so last month we had Mashu, and now we have Thanatos, who will be able to acquire for the next month. He is a D4 magic dicer who has the ability to burn the enemy for 1 turn per attack. Burns the enemy for 1 turn per attack. Only for move, battle, master, range skills. I'm not really sure what that means. Burns the enemy for 3 turns upon getting hit. And counters with 70% of the received damage. Oh, okay. So basically if the opponent... So you play Thanatos... Because remember, this is a movement skill. You play Thanatos, if the opponent attacks you, they're going to get burned for 1 turn. And if Thanatos was fully charged, when you got hit, it would burn the enemy for 3 turns and counter 70. This actually doesn't seem that bad. I know in the Korean tier list, they made him like the 2nd worst 5-star dicer. Let me just show you. But I can see him being good in raids. Yeah, he actually has a decent ranking in raids. Yeah, so as you can see, he got lumped together on the bottom tier with Abaddon. But if I was not looking at this, I would say he's not bad. I would get him, actually. Maybe he proves not to be useful at the end, but he does have... I would say that it's easier to proc the burn effect from this dicer compared to, say, like Rock Crawler or Gatling, because I feel like, positioning with snipers, you have to be at a certain position on the map, whereas, with magic or bomber dicers, you just need to hug the boss, and at some point you're going to face the boss and get that damage off. Or that burn off. I actually think he's pretty good. I know in the Korean tier list they make him look bad, but I'd say in raids he's pretty useful. I was doing a raid the other day with Rock Crawler, and man, just getting in position to get that full charge off to burn the opponent for 2 turns was just such a pain. So I would say, I would definitely get a limit broken Thanatos with a move number that you like. I think he's worth getting, despite the Korean tier rankings. Alright, so finally we have Chunho. For her, I haven't found anyone who's acquired her yet. Let me see if anyone's actually gotten him from a summon. I'm not even sure if anyone's summoning right now. Ooh! Okay. Here, let me just save this. Okay, so someone did pull her. Just in case I need to refer to it later. Yeah, I would agree with you there, Yaboku. But if you did say like get Mashu from the previous month, Mashu has the ability, especially when you get the Dicer skin, to just be able to heal so much HP. Although you are right, getting hit by a 4th floor boss, that's it can range anywhere up to 10k damage per hit. So I think you definitely have a point there. Alright, so let's take a look at her abilities. So she is a D10 single whirlwind dicer. Kitsunebi adds 20% damage to, I guess, her damage output. Full charge adds 25%. Burns all enemies for 2 turns upon hitting an enemy with 20% HP or less. So that seems, I would say that's pretty good in a raid situation, although I don't think the Korean tier list thinks as much. This is a great way if you're struggling to get the opponent's HP down to 0, then this can speed it up. And then Willow the Wisp, add 1 dice over your single dice. So it seems like we're getting a lot of new dicers that can burn the enemy. Even Gatling, who I will go over now, or pretty soon, also burns the enemy. Yeah, she's okay. I'm not a big fan of D10 Whirlwind users. The reason I say this is because, when I first started the game, I played Laura, and she was amazing, but I just didn't like being that squishy. But yeah, I do see her being usable in raids. I don't know if you would want to play her in PvP. But anyways, her artwork looks really cool. I don't have her limit broken artwork offhand, but she looks really cool. Alright, and you can get her from premium summon, so that's nice. Okay, and then just briefly reviewing the Gatling. Okay, so in order to acquire Gatling, the 4-star dicer, you have to spend 15,000 spellbooks, which seems pretty steep actually, because for those of you guys who've never gotten an event dicer before, I would say you have to spend at least 30k of these resources here to get 1 copy of the 5-star cube event dicer. So I find it kind of surprising that despite him being like a watered down version of Rock Crawler, that he's so costly. I kind of feel like that's not right, but anyway, so let's go over his abilities here, and we do have it on wiki. So this is what he looks like in limit broken form. He is a D6 sniper who, first ability at full charge, has the ability to burn the target for 2 turns when fully charged. So basically like Rock Crawler. Here, I can show you what Rock Crawler does. Yeah, so let me put them side by side. Rock Crawler. Okay, so here's Rock Crawler. She was a cube event dicer a couple events back. So yeah, so like I mentioned before, basically a 4-star version of Rock Crawler. Increases damage, burns the enemy, destroys an enemy's D4 dice, and basically D4, what you would expect the stats of a D4 dicer to be, although this does seem kind of weak there. So I would say that Gatling is not really worth getting, unless you really needed Rock Crawler and missed her, and needed her for the burn. Yeah. And guys, I think that's about it. This event, I would say, was not that... When I saw everything offered here, I was like, that's it, Seems... Aw. It's okay. Rock Crawler Natural 5 is, without Limit Break, is still pretty good. As a matter of fact, you know how lately we've been getting the enhanced dicers? So I was only able to acquire 1 copy of Anubis, but I feel like a lot of the dicers nowadays, you don't really need to get a limit broken form, because really, the reason why you want Rock Crawler, I mean, the damage is nice when limit broken, but you really want her for the burn. Hi, Shota. You missed everything. I went over all the dicers already. But anyways, just to summarize for Shota-con, I would say none of these dicers in this cube event really stand out. You can pretty much ignore this event entirely, actually. There's no avatars to get or anything like that. Lars is okay, but he's kind of like a worse version of Melite. Lars only applies, you know, a shield for one turn as opposed to Melite's 3 shields for your entire team. Lars does have a higher damage output from the additional 50% damage at full charge, but it only deals about 3,500, so nothing to write home about. The Oath of Swords, I mean, you have to lose the dice battle to gain a shield. So all in all, I would say Melite's hands down the better piercer to go for. And you don't have to, all you need to do is premium summon for Melite. Thanatos had the second worst 5-star ranking in the Korean tier list, but I personally feel like he's actually pretty good. Yaboku made a good point that with Thanatos, in order to maximize his full charge ability for, you know, burning the enemy 3 turns, you have to get hit, and in 4F, you know, getting hit can be pretty costly sometimes. I do think that the introduction of the introduction of Mashu does soften the damage a little bit, because Mashu just heals so much over time. But I think that if you want reliable fire or reliable burn that doesn't require proper positioning, well, actually it still requires positioning, right? Because you have to get hit. But I feel like getting hit is much easier to do than trying to traverse towards the correct tile on the map. But, you know, if you want a good alternative for burn, I do think, what's her name? Well, yeah, I think you're probably better off sticking with, I don't know, what do people use to burn bosses nowadays? I know some people use Muspel, and then there's another natural 4 that people like to use. I think Muspel is the easiest because it's very easy to get into bomber position against the boss. But I think with Thanatos, I mean, keep in mind, even burning the boss once is already pretty nice, and if you combo with Iblis, you can still get a burn going for a while. Nice! Yeah, and I feel like if you're trying to burn the enemy, burning with a magic dicer or a bomber dicer is much easier than a sniper dicer. Like I mentioned before, the other day I was playing 4F trying to get in position for Rock Crawler's full charge burn. And man, it was a big headache, because I remember I was on the left-hand side of the map, and the tile that I needed to step on in order to burn the enemy from had some sort of movement ability or was a heal that I was trying to save for later. So yeah, so I haven't been able to use Rock Crawler as effectively as I'd like. So I think Thanatos is good. I may end up going for him if I know that I'll be in positions where I'll inevitably get hit by the enemy. At least I can, you know, reflect some damage, burn the enemy for 3 turns. Yeah, and just if you have Thanatos on your team, have like Diana or Mashu. I play both on my team, just to, you know, get that HP regen for that longevity. Recoup the damage that I've taken. Chunho is okay. She's the new premium summon dicer. Also has the ability to burn, except in order to burn the enemy, you need to have them at 20% HP or less. And her dicer ability is okay at best. Most people, I don't think, will play more than 1d10. 2 at most, so yeah, that's not as good. And Gatling, like I just reviewed, he's basically like a 4-star version of Rockcrawler. Okay, well I think that wraps it up. Packages are pretty much the same. Yeah, pretty much the standard. I wouldn't go for Lars unless you do get 2 copies of this package, just because you'll need to spend so many more spellbooks for the shards otherwise. Alright, so I think that covers it. I think this event was pretty disappointing. I think what I'm most bothered by is just the introduction of a skin for a dicer that's not currently acquirable, and during the time when she was so hard to obtain, right? I mean, you pretty much had to unlock her from a cube, so I don't understand what the developers are thinking. I feel like this game right now, the dicers are rotating so quick. I feel like they ought to make the cube events last 1 month and then just stagger the new cube events every 2 weeks. That way you always have 2 different choices for, you know, which cube event dicer you want to focus on. Oh wow, that's nice. I like that. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, but nevertheless, though, I'm worried about, you know, for the people who are starting this game for the first time. I feel like this event did not really help attract them. If anything, I think the new players are in for a rude awakening, because they'll be facing against, you know, other people who have Moshu, and Moshu is just a huge game changer. Used to be for guild adventures, for instance, if say I got unlucky, got hit more times than I would like, normally I'd just be dead. But with Moshu, I remember going from, like last night I went from 26k HP down to 4k, and by the time I ended the adventure I had 18k HP. Yeah, so yeah. And I think that they need to make it so that the cube event dicers aren't so costly. You know, even for someone who is spending money on this game, it's just too expensive to get the cube event dicer. Yeah. So guys, in summary, I would say save your gems. I wouldn't bother trying for Lars, especially if you have a melite already. Melite is more accessible and is 10 times better than Lars. The other dicer, like Dicer Rebirth, I think he does have a usage if you've got the natural 5s to spare. Like let's say you do descent challenges, or I'm sorry, descent dungeons, and can farm, you know, for natural 5s hard mode consistently, then I'd say yeah, get 2 copies of him to limit break 1 and just have him handy when you need to burn the opponent fast for raids. Otherwise I wouldn't worry about him either. Yeah, and Gatling is too expensive. Even if you missed Rockcrawler last time, I would say Gatling is definitely not worth it. Yeah, I'm not going to try for him. I mean, I have a Rockcrawler already, so it doesn't matter for me. But even if you don't have, what am I doing? Even if I don't have Rockcrawler, or even if you don't have Rockcrawler, I would say, yeah, it's not really worth getting him. Yeah, way too expensive. The cost of getting a limit broken Gatling is almost equivalent to getting 1 copy of Lars. So if you're able to limit break a Gatling, you might as well try to get a Lars there. Yeah. Okay. I think that about wraps things up. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my stream. I know this event was not that exciting, but I felt it was still important to, just document what events we've had so far, just so that, newcomers have an idea of what they've missed up until this point. Yeah, but I really do hope they start bringing these cube event dicers back. I don't know if in Korea or Japan they stagger the cube events like I suggested, but I really do hope they make the cube event dicers more accessible. I've already missed a lot of cube event dicers, and I'm sure most of you have as well. Yeah, so anyways guys, thank you for watching. I most likely will not be pulling for this event. I'm gonna wait 2 weeks and wait for the next dicer to come out. What I'm really waiting for is this summer dicer here, who I was expecting her to be expecting her to be released sooner because of all the swimsuit avatars being released, but I think they're waiting for summer to hit, so I'm waiting for Erin here. Yeah, she's going to be a cube event dicer at some point, and she's super flexible in all teams. So for those of you guys who are waiting for a good dicer, 5-star dicer enhancer, then I would wait. Alright. Take care guys, and I will see you maybe 2 weeks from now. We'll see. Unless they release a new world boss next week, which could certainly happen. I can see it happening. Okay? Alright, take care.